Well, Jennifer Robinson has been working with Julian Assange and WikiLeaks as their lawyer since 2010 and is with us. Very good evening to you. You've seen him relatively recently, last week, I think, yes?
Just last week.
How is he?
It's obviously a very serious situation. His health has been deteriorating for a very long time. He's been 6 years without sunlight, without the ability to exercise, without the ability to seek medical treatment. And the past 3 months since the end of March, or longer, 3 months, has been worse in the sense that he's cut off from the internet, cut off from telephone calls and cut off from visitors, which makes his time in the embassy even more difficult. Combined with the uncertainty of the ongoing speculation about whether his protection will continue, it's a serious situation.
Does he believe he's about to be kicked out?
The indications we have, as you've just read from the Ecuadorian government, is that there's no imminent risk that he's going to be leaving the embassy, that they're going to continue his asylum, and that protection will continue. There are ongoing negotiations, we understand, with the British government, and we do know that the Vice President of America did raise it with the President of Ecuador when he was visiting, and we are not party to those negotiations. Right. So
you're just
we
bystanders, but your client is obviously at the centre
that's right.
of it all. I think a lot of people will say he's been made quite unwelcome at the embassy now, and he only has himself to blame because he blatantly broke the terms of normal asylum. They said, we don't want you sort of continuing your activities from here, but you can be our guest in the embassy. And he did. He was, taking part in making comments on Catalonian independence. Now, why did he do that?
Well, there's no restrictions on him within the embassy and certainly around his continued work. And indeed, he's one of the most famous free speech transparency activists in the world. So, of course, he's going to continue to exercise his free speech. Having access to the internet and Twitter allowed him to do that. Now, of course, Ecuador has since cut him off because of their concerns about the political pushback they're getting from other countries around him exercising his right to free speech. But that is not a condition of his asylum. Okay. And it should not affect his protection.
There was a charge that he had hacked some embassy computers and had actually read diplomatic emails that he shouldn't have had access to. Is that correct in your knowledge?
My instructions are that is absolutely not correct.
Not correct, OK. If he gets out, or when he gets out, because he has to have some plan for getting out, he's not going to spend the rest of his life in that ground floor of the Ecuadorian embassy. Do you think Sweden will reactivate the rape charges, the two charges that were against him?
Our understanding is that investigation has now been closed. He gave his testimony. We were offering to give his testimony for many, many years in response to that investigation. He was not charged. There were no charges. And after hearing his testimony, they decided to drop the case.
Right. So you're hopeful that, because they actually, I think, said there's no one to prosecute, so we're locking it all away, but you're hopeful that means they won't bother getting it out the cupboard again.
Our understanding from Swedish Council is that the case is over.
Right. The Brits, one would expect, other things being equal, will charge him with busting bail.
Well, that's still an open question. So,
right. But one would imagine they would do that.
If and when he leaves the embassy, there is still an open question as to whether he would be charged for breach of bail.
But they wouldn't give him bail on that charge, would they? I mean, no one ever in their right mind is going to give him bail on anything ever again, are they?
Well, our concern is this. He had a reasonable excuse to go into the embassy. He was concerned about being extradited to the United States, and that concern remains. We've had high-profile statements from members of the Trump administration, from the Attorney General Jeff Sessions to Mike Pompeo as Director of CIA, saying that prosecuting him is a priority and that he would not benefit from First Amendment protections. This is a very serious situation. So the reasons for his protection remain. Now, if he walks out, he's always said that he would be happy to face British justice, but not at the expense of American injustice. So unless and until there's an assurance against US extradition, which is the reason that he was given asylum in the first place and the reason for Ecuador's protection, then Ecuador has obligations to continue that protection.
He knows stuff that would probably be quite interesting to Mueller and the whole investigation going on in the United States. Do you think he would be willing to cooperate with authorities in the United States? Tell them where WikiLeaks got these things from. Give them more information about what he knows about collusion potentially between Americans and Russians over that campaign.
Julian has already made clear that the material, the DNC material, was not received from Russia, which is an unusual thing for WikiLeaks to talk about sourcing at all.
But he would know that, would he? I mean, he would know if it was from Russia ultimately.
He said his comments were that the source that he received it from was not a Russian.
But he might have got it from an intermediary, and that intermediary got it from the Russians. Has he ruled that out?
As I understand it, yes. But the point of anonymising source, so the WikiLeaks model is that sources are supposed to be anonymous. It's very unusual for him to have made a statement at all about sourcing. Now, media organisations around the world have adopted the same anonymous Dropbox system, and the entire point is that you don't know who the source is. The important point is the documents were verified. And in this case, the DNC material was in fact verified to be accurate information, and it was published in the public interest. And WikiLeaks was not the only media organisation to report on this. The New York Times said that they would have published it had they received it.
Jennifer.
And other organisations published it.
Jennifer Robinson, thank you very much. Thanks for coming in.